cried foul. The Prime Minister up and down Michael's Mount. When we bought Hadid building, FE Hadid building, a 4-story reinforced concrete building in Redcliffe Street that takes up 3 blocks, it was corruption. But now Food City is in financial difficulty. 15 million broad dollar notes and no accountability. Not a drum is heard. Not a drum is heard. Where are the valuations? We bought Bryson's 2 acres of waterfront land for $4 million. $4 million EC dollars. Mr. Minister of Finance, the port falls under your, does it? Public Works. But you're the Minister of Finance, and no money should be expended without you and without your approval. 4 acres, 2 acres, sorry, for $4 million EC, waterfront.
20 years credit.
20 years credit from Bryson's. And we turn around and we buy Food City for $15 million of the people's money. Reclaim land, built up land, that we sold them for not even 100,000 EC. That Henry Simon sold them for less than 100,000 EC dollars. But we bailed them out of bankruptcy. They owe RBTT, they owe ACB, they have to pay off. I'm not afraid, they're my friends and my very dear friends. But the truth must be told. So that is corruption, Madam Speaker. Tell us also about the Chinese-generated deal, Mr. Prime Minister, which the Attorney General and the Minister of Finance knew nothing about. Tell us about that. Let us see the agreement. Lay it here before Parliament. The Attorney General on the oath said he knew nothing about. And tell us how much of the $40 per plate school meal really costs, and where's all the extra money gone? $40 per meal. That is corruption. And then the Honourable Prime Minister wants to speak about transparency, about accountability, about responsible behaviour in public interest. How come he could not come to grips, Madam Speaker, with Alan Stanford's transformation to eradicate poverty and depressed conditions in the Grays Farm and Green Bay area? So the Prime Minister went on a tirade of abuse and name-calling, totally unbecoming of a government leader. Calling the single largest investor in the country haughty, arrogant, obnoxious, nearly caused a run on a man's bank. I'm not leader. I'm not Prime Minister. That is unbecoming, Madam Speaker, of leader. Lester Bird would never do that. Never. But he was not man enough, Madam Speaker. The Prime Minister was not man enough to plunge the country into the darkness. Lest we forget the darkness of the unnecessary load shedding fiasco that you plunged this country into just 3 months ago. 3 months ago! And you blamed it on the Hadids. You wrapped yourself in the national flag. You launched another tirade designed to evoke public hate, anger, and violence against the Hadid family, using words and cliches as slave driver and slave master and independence, when you had all the notice that the generators were coming off stream, and you still wrap yourself in the national flag, and your entire cabinet, save for 2 or 3, were against you. And not one of them got up in here to come to your defense. Madam Speaker, this UPP government, who could not wait to get its hands deep into the pockets of the people 4 years and 9 months ago, is even wasting our money to supervise skullduggery in the allocation of lands. And that is not my word, skullduggery. Embarrassed by her own guilt, Madam Speaker, Senator Joanne Messiah unfairly accuses the Chief Lands Officer, Mr. Darrell Matthew, an upright and honest civil servant, and the permanent secretary of allocating lands clandestinely and without her knowledge and approval. But in a no-nonsense reply to the minister, the chief lands officer has made it clear that she's way off mark. His memo, dated, and I have it here, Madam Speaker, you can copy it and give you a copy, and all members, dated, Madam Speaker, November the 18th, 2008, and it states, with your permission, quote, any residential developments that are under preparation of being allocated have been done with your full knowledge. In fact, the most recent development in Piers West, the allocation letters were prepared by your secretariat, and all the persons to whom the lands were allocated were selected by you. It continues, early in the term of this administration, an agreement was reached by which lands that are allocated will be done on a 50-50 basis. Half of the parcels will be allocated to the applicants in the lands division, and half will be by political recommendation. At no point since that decision was reached in 2005 has it been honored. In fact, kindly note the follows. This is Darrell Matthew writing to Minister Messiah. 1. Of the 28 parcels allocated in Mackie Hill, 23 were allocated by you, Honourable Minister. Of the 20 parcels allocated in Fidget's Creek development, 16 were allocated by you, Honourable Minister. Of the 41 parcels allocated in Piers West development, all 41 were allocated by you, Honourable Minister. From the above, you can attest to my cooperation with you and your policy to date. Having outlined all of the above, I suggest, Honourable Minister, that you retract your minute of September the 19th, 2008, and if there are concerns that you have to address, those concerns directly and to the officer to whom those concerns are to be raised. At no time during your 10 years Minister in charge of lands can you say that I have not been cooperative with you, even as I disagree with your approach to the issue of lands. Indeed, I am not aware that if allocations take place, your prior knowledge and approval is required. Let me repeat this. Indeed, I am not aware that if allocations are to take place, your prior knowledge and approval is required. I'm sure you can appreciate that your cabinet colleagues frequently contact me seeking assistance for constituents. On these occasions, I make it a personal point to assist whenever I can to enforce the policies, since I have a responsibility to enforce the policies of the sitting government. This courtesy is one which I have also extended to you when requested. Sincerely, Mr. Darrell Matthew, Chief Lands Officer. Madam Speaker, this was in response to a memo that the Minister sent telling Darrell Matthew that with immediate effect, no lands are to be allocated for sale or lease in any new or existing developments or lands wheresoever situated without my prior knowledge and approval. If we are to work collaboratively and as a team, then I'm sure you will agree that the proverbial left hand must know what the right hand is doing at all times. Please be guided accordingly. Ex cathedra. Yours sincerely, Honourable Senator Joanne Messiah. In other words, Madam Speaker, the 90% of the land parcels, 80 out of 89, issued according to the political agenda of Joanne Messiah is just fine. Her problem is with the 10%, 9 out of 89, allocated by public officers, civil servants, who have the proper legal authority to make such allocations. Madam Speaker, I want to remind the Minister of Lands that all the Crown lands in this country, which represents nearly 70% of the total land mass in this country, was bought by the late V.C. Bird, who had the vision and the foresight, who walked into Royal Bank of Canada in 1966, and he took out a loan in those days of £6 million so that the people of Antigua and Barbuda could own their piece of the rock. So our